So I'm here to take you through the workflow of how in the EUIPO we examine trademarks and what the common errors are and how to avoid them. My colleague of last webinar took you through quite a detailed presentation about how we do it, about distinctiveness and all that. This presentation will focus more on the workflows and on the different steps that we take. And at the end of this presentation, I will show you a new online tool that we have at the EIPO. So as said, we start with route to registration. This is divided into formalities, examination, classification, examination, and the examination of absolute grounds. So you see here the workflow, right? So it starts, of course, with the application for a sign. This can be a word, a logo, a shape, a sound, a combination, and everybody wants then an EUTM, a European trademark. After a check of the valid data requirements, there are several steps. The examination starts. This is called the proceedings examination. All right, so a part of it is the classification that we see if classification is correct. Another part is the formalities. And then after that, we have the absolute grounds examination. When everything is okay, we take the application to the translations center. They translate all the list of goods and services. As you may know, we translate those lists of goods and services in 23 languages. And then it goes to the search, and then an opposition period starts. Right? I have to say the classification and the formalities and absolute grounds, they are performed in parallel. And many times this is done by different persons. So a different person, a different examiner is doing the classification and the formalities, and a different person is examining the absolute grounds. So this is not one person, it's more than one. Also, this means that if in any of the examinations there is a deficiency and you need to reply to it and you do not reply, it means that it will be refused. So it can also be refused on formality grounds. So not only on absolute grounds, it can also be refused if you do not remedy if there is a formality deficiency. But if everything is okay, the trademark will go to publication and then the 3 months opposition period starts. So the opposition period, this is 3 months, as I said. In that period, third parties have the possibility to oppose the trademark that we intend to register. These are called the relative grounds for refusal. If you look in the guidelines, this is Article 8, EUTMR. I will not take you through this because I think that my colleague last time did it extensively with you. But the most common the grounds are that there is a double identity of design applied for and the goods and service for which protection is sought, and it is just is in coincide with the previous trademark. So there can be a likelihood of confusion. So this means that consumers will confuse the trademark that is applied for with the trademark that is already registered. And also there's can be a trademark, an earlier trademark, the reputation. So this means that there can be opposition. Now, if an opposition is filed against an application and is upheld by the opposition division, this can lead to a total or a partial refusal of the opposition, right? However, if no opposition is filed or the opposition is not successful, then the application will be registered and it will become an EIPO, right? So yes or no. This is again the root of the registration. So when a trademark is registered, it has protection for 10 years. right? Initially 10 years. Uh, a, an owner of a trademark, they can decide to sell it, to transfer it, or license it. And at the end of the 10 years, they can choose to renew it if they want to keep the trademark. Yeah, so this is a renewal. So initially 10 years, and then they can renew it. They can renew it as many times as they want, right? So unlimited renewals. A trademark does not require prior use if you want to register it as a trademark. However, it does require that within a 5-year period after registration, the trademark is put into genuine use. So applicants do have to use it. If a right holder does not put the application to use, they run the risk that it is being cancelled, and they cannot defend well their trademarks. Right? Another a party can request cancellation of the trademark for not use. It's called cancellation. You see there, or they can have a revocation. Right? And it is these are the grounds for cancellation. So then we go to the filing date requirements. This sounds maybe obvious, but we need to have simply that it's the word that it's a request for a trademark. They have to pay the fees for the registration within 1 month of sending us the application. We have to know who the applicant is. They have to be identified correctly. And then we also have to have a clear definition of the subject matter of the protection, right? We have to see clearly what is the trademark they want. And also we have to have clearly which are the goods and services that they want it for. So, like I said in a few slides ago, we have a formality examination. Now, so what are formalities? First of all, these. As we know, at the EIPO, we work in several languages. So an application can have a first and a second language. There is a certain language, let's say, requirement that we set for applications. If a first language is an official language of the EU, so any of a language of the EU member states, then the second language has to be one of the 5 working languages of the EIPO, which are English, Spanish, French, German, and Italian. All right. However, the first and the second language, they must be different. And all the application details, so the list of goods and services, they have to be in the first language that they choose. So meaning if you choose, for example, Dutch as first language, then the list of goods and services has to be in Dutch. Right? If you do this wrong, then there will be a deficiency. The choice of the language cannot change after the application is filed. So once chosen, this cannot change. The correspondent language can be changed unless already there is an objection that is filed. Then we go to the next formality step, which are the persons. A person, we mean either the applicant or the legal representative. Now, an applicant can be any natural or legal person, or can also be authorities established under public law, but they have to have a domicile of a principal place of business inside the EEA. EEA stands for European Economic Area. And these are the EU member states, plus Iceland, Norway, or Liechtenstein. If applicants do not come from any of these countries, they need to appoint a legal representative. So a legal representative and the communications will go exclusively to this legal representative. Now we have on our website a list of these representatives that's publicly available, so people can have a look and contact one that they like. it is important to know that if in the beginning an applicant does not have a legal representative and appoints one, it is the representative who has to appoint him or herself. So it's not possible to say, I choose this one, right? It is the representative who has to come to the office and say, I am the representative in this application. Then we go to the next formality step, which is a kind of mark. You can have an individual mark, but we can also have a collective mark, of course. A collective mark, like let's just see there, is from as the word says, from an association, from a collective. And then we also have a certification mark. A certification mark describes when there is a certain material or a way of manufacturing, and it has to come with certain rules. Or, for example, it describes when a trademark and the products that belongs to, they come from a certain region, a certain geographical indication. Then we go to the type of mark. So what kind of mark is it? And go to the next. So we can have a word mark, of course, this is logical. A word mark is defined as words, of course, as the words say, either lowercase, uppercase, numbers, or type fonts. It must be represented by the way reproduction of the word in standard script and layouts. So no, without any figurative elements. So just the words. This is already basic, I think. Then we have a figurative mark. This is a mark consisting of a figurative element only, or a combination of a figurative mark and word elements. Can also be words, but then not in a standard font. Can also be words on 2 lines. Can be letters from non-EU alphabets. So non-EU alphabets, for example, we receive every now and then Chinese characters as a word, as a mark. That this has to be a figurative mark. And also a combination can it be of all the above. Then we have a shape mark. A shape mark is a mark consisting of or extending to a 3-dimensional shape. This can include containers of products, packaging, the product itself, or the appearance of a product, the way it looks. I say extending, and this means that it also extends to shape mark covers, and also it can contain other elements. So you can have word elements on it, and also figurative elements or labels. That a position mark. This is a trademark consisting of a way that a trademark, the sign that they apply for, is placed on a product. A simple example is Adidas shoes. Now you see that we all know those 3 stripes. So this can be a position mark. It must be represented by an image that we see clearly what the position of the goods are and what the size is of the mark in relation to the product that it goes on. And it can have a description that can be added to explain more where the shape is go. And then we have a pattern mark, of course. Well, the word says a repeated pattern. Can also go with description how the pattern works, how it is repeated. But the description has to be the same, has to correspond to what we see. No, so they cannot put a different description as what we actually see. Then we have another one, a color mark. Color mark can be a single color without any contours, or a combination of colors without contours. So here what is protected is the shade of the color. And if there's more colors, it is the way they are arranged in what we see. And we have a sound mark, of course, where the word is self-defining, only a sound or a combination of sounds. However, when there are images, so when you see pictures, then it's not only a sound mark, because then we see more. That this is a multimedia mark, which is later on. We also have a motion mark, which is not the same as a multimedia mark, is a movement of a certain sign, how it changes over the how it changes. And then also, like I said, multimedia mark, combination of words, of images and sound. Can be anything, combination of image and sound and words, um, labels, figurative elements. So multimedia, as I say. Can only be submitted by an audiovisual file, and you have to see both the image and the sound. Can only be via e-filing. Another one is a hologram mark. I will not go too much into this because this is clear, a mark which is a hologram. And then we have the type which is other marks, which is basically all marks which are not covered by the previous types of marks. Now, what are these? You can think of so-called tracer marks or colored lines which go on a textile, for example. So this is not really any of the above. So these have to be other marks or lines that go on cables, for example. We do not accept here smell marks, olfactory marks, or touch marks. All right, so this is the type of marks that we have. Here I have an example of what we could have as a formality error. You see here that this is the invented example, of course. The applicant's name is Miss Mary A. Waterman. She describes herself as a founder and CEO. The applicant's company is called My Style Clothing Company. The legal form is sole proprietorship. And she has put the legal address being P.O. Box SE17PB, Riverside Building in London, United Kingdom. Here, there are a few things that are incorrect according to our practice. First of all, the names need to be fully written. So we need to have it Mary A. I don't know what we need to know what the A stands for. So Mary Allison, Mary Ann, whatever. This, if we see this, the applicant will receive a formality deficiency. You may think this is a little bit childish, but you have to think that what if she, for example, says M.A. Waterman? There could be many people in the world who are called M.A. Waterman. Right? So this means then that it's not really clear who the owner is. Also, it's not really clear if the application is made on the name of the applicant or the name of the company. Here, it's important to know that you see here a PO box, that for a natural person, we do allow a post box. However, if the applicant is a company, we do not allow the address to be only a post box, right? Unless they submit to us evidence that that this is really their address. So unless they are inscribed like this in the register. And lastly, you see here that the applicant is from the United Kingdom. As you will all know, as I think it was, I know that anyway, since the UK is not anymore part of the European Union, so meaning that the applicant is from outside the European Union, this means then that this applicant needs to have a legal representative for further proceedings. It is important to note that they are able to actually send us the application, first one, but immediately after that, they need to appoint a representative. It may sound contradictory, but this is the way it works. Here, you have an example of a sound mark, just for the fun. I hope you heard it. This is a trademark, of course, you've all recognized what it is. It's YouTube, and this is actually a European trademark registered under this number, and the owner is then, of course, Google LLC. Now, this ends the formality part. We now go on to classification. There is each classification has an edition that we work with. We are now working with the 13th Nice edition. Nice in France, as all of you know. And this started at the 1st of January this year, so quite recently. Here's just a few basics. This is a screenshot from the WIPO page, the WIPO in Switzerland. Here you see, again, that the NICE classification already exists since 1957. It's an international classification of goods and services, and the EUIPO follows this classification. New edition is published every 5 years, and since 2013, annually. Right? So if you want to know more, you can go to the WIPO page. We're now 13th edition, as I said. If you go to this page, on the left side, you see the arrow going down where it says edition version. By default, it will be on the latest version, 13. However, if you want to see the previous versions, there you can change it to the previous versions. On the right side arrow, you see the section modifications. There you will see what changed in this 13th edition, which is then quite interesting to know. As I said, the cutoff date is the 1st of January this year, meaning that all the applications that we received from before this date, they followed edition number 12. And all the applications that we receive as of the 1st of January, they follow edition number 13. So regardless of when we, here in EIPO, we process the application, it is what counts is the date that it was filed. I now have some example of changes of this 13th edition. So what changed, for example, is the product indication sunglasses for pets. This went from class 9 to class 10. Class 9, this includes mainly apparatus instruments for scientific or research purposes, audio, visual, and information technology equipment, and also safety and life-saving equipment. So this is why it says audio visual. This is why probably it was in 10. It was in 9, sorry. So, but class 10, this includes surgical, medical, dental, and veterinary apparatus, and articles used for diagnosis, treatment, or improvement of functional condition of persons and animals. So here we can then say that the reason behind the change is that sunglasses are really meant to improve, I don't know, the vision of a person or an animal. I've never seen a dog with sunglasses, but there you go. Apparently they exist. Also for these terms, there was a change from 9 to 10. So eyeglasses, eyeglass chains, cords, contact lenses, and containers for contact lenses. They were all in 9, and they then go to 10. Now, the next slide is then where you get to be interactive. We have here virtual reality glasses. I will show you again what class 9 is and what class 10 is, right? So that you can read it well. The question here for you, and the technician will start a poll. Does this belong to class 9 or does this belong to class 10? It's not an exam, so if you do it wrong, doesn't matter. We don't know if you've done it wrong, but please do reply to just for the fun of it. I think everybody now replied no. I think so. Do I click on share results?
Yes, please.
Oh yeah, wait. Oh, it's then I don't know where I see it. Anyway, so share results. I will tell it to you.
We see it. We see it.
Okay, you see it, sorry. Uh, Most people said yes, but I don't know. Yes was supposed, I think yes is the first option, so 9. And then no was probably the second option. No, everybody said 9. Um, wait, that was, and you will be happy to know that. Am I sharing still the presentation? Yeah, no?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so everywhere I see that most of you
Yeah,
had it correct. So this has to be in class 9 because still it's a little bit more than just simple glasses. There's technology behind. So virtual reality is more information technology. So well done, everyone. Then I just go to the next list of changes. In the previous edition, so in the 12th edition, we had these terms in class 3. So essential oils, we have for manufacturing cosmetics, we've had for making fragrances, we had for aromatherapy, and also we had for flavoring food and beverages. Now, these all went to different classes. So in class 1, for example, there were the oils for manufacturing cosmetics because these are really considered to be like raw material. Right? So this is a raw material for something, for cosmetic, even though it's essential oil. In class 3, that is still for fragrancing, so to make perfume. But essential oil for aromatherapy, the word therapy already indicates it that this is a more medical or function. This was moved to class 5. And then we have essential oils for flavoring food and beverages. This is more, this is not anything chemical. This is more to give flavor to food. This is why it actually went from class 3 to class 29. I think this makes sense. Then the next one is this one. Fire engines, fire boats, life-saving rafts, lifeboats, evacuation chairs. They were also in 9 because they were considered to be life-saving equipment. Let's hope that in reality this saves lives. However, as class 9 was really full, it was decided by the classification experts that this is more something that should go to class 12 because it's more like a vehicle. A fire engine is, of course, a vehicle, right? So, and also a boat is for transport, right? And a chair, this evacuation chair, is also for transport. So this is the reason behind the changing from 9 to 12. And I think this also makes sense. Now, we go to the next parts of classification. All right, so why is classification important? It is important because the protection is granted in relation to specific goods and services. So it is always for certain goods and services. So therefore, it is very important that everyone knows what the list of goods and services is, right? This is why each applicant has to, they have to make clear, they have to have list clear of what it is that they want the trademark for, so that everybody knows what it is for. So again, the NIS classification, right? This list can be checked by the office. And what we check is that we go through the whole list. We have a program that breaks down for us the whole list into certain parts. Then we look, do we understand really what we see, what we read? Is it clear and precise? And is it in the correct class? And a list afterwards can also be restricted, so limited, as said, or amended. but it cannot be extended. It cannot be more than initially was submitted. Right? So this is the examination. We see if the list is clear and precise. Here there are several things that could go wrong. I will show you now some issues that we frequently see. We have a quite automized process that our filing tool classifies automatically certain terms. Also, during the filing, applicants can choose to only choose terms which are automatically accepted. What could happen is that there are certain punctuation and spelling mistakes, and this then blocks the automatic validation of the task. So this is important for applicants to look out for. The spelling, we do stationary with an E and not stationary with an A. The next one, marketing import and export. You see that marketing import is written together. This causes the automatic validation to stop. And then we have what we frequently see in class 35 that people use semicolons, so a dot and a comma instead of commas behind each word. So basically what it means is that here we read it as retail service related to cars, and then there's a new term motorcycles, and then there's a new term scooters. This is not correct. Many times this happens if there are goods classes before this one, and they want to say applicants that they are selling all these goods. So what they do is they simply copy paste all the goods into class 35. But if applicants do this, they have to replace all the semicolons by commas to make it one term. And the term has to make sense, of course. The same as their example is below, photovoltaic installations for generating electricity. Also, there's now what's called two double points. This is also confusing. It changes the meaning of the term, right? So it means that whatever that becomes is after that is an example of what is before that. So this is something that applicants have to take care of. If it's simple, for example, if we know that the semicolons have to be in reality commas, then the examiner simply replaces it without asking. Right? We don't want to send out needless communications to people if we know what they want. Right? We don't, but we only do this when it's straightforward that we know, okay, here we have to change, they made a mistake, so we change it ourselves. Right? So there's another example, production of movie and game shows. It has to be comma. So production of movies and game shows, and also production of TV programs and other audiovisual content. So it is not two terms. This is what we see often. And then, like you saw before, what we check is each of the goods and services must be sufficiently clear and precise, and it has to be in the correct class. Now, we here have an example. We have the example related to energy and electricity. So electrical energy, of course, is something that you do not see. This is to be considered to be the same as other type of fuels. So it's a type of fuel, and this is why it is supposed to be in NIS class 4. The same goes for any other type of electrical energy. So what you see here, electricity, electrical energy, and also doesn't really matter if it's from non-renewable sources or from renewable sources, solar power or wind power. It's all electrical energy. Yeah. Here, what already skipping ahead, what people need to be aware of applicants is that if the list, for example, has the word electrical energy from non-renewable sources, and the mark that they want is something which is related to sustainability, then they will receive an objection because this doesn't match with the term that is in the list. So where it says non-renewable, this is not sustainable. And then we go to another example. So as said, energy by itself is, even though it is classified in class 4, even though applications have this in class 4, it is too vague, right? So it has to be electrical energy, not only energy. Another error that we sometimes see is this. They have in class 5 the term proteins. This by itself is not sufficient. This has to be like this because the natural class of proteins is class 1. If you look at the database, you see that this is in class 1 proteins. If it is not in class 1 or in class, so like here in this example in class 5, they need to specify it better. They need to say, for example, protein powder, or they need to say protein supplements, or they need to say dietary supplements, soy protein supplements. It has to have more than just protein if we want to accept it in class 5. All right, so protein powder is okay. Important here to realize is that if you have, if there are products like shakes and drinks, this is actually follows a different type of classification. Protein supplements, shakes, these are considered to be like a sort of medical function. They go to class 5, like it's a food supplement. However, if they say protein drinks, this has to be classified in class 32, because there what we understand to be protein drinks is just a drink that you can buy in a supermarket that simply contains a bit of protein. And the protein shake is, as many of you may know, like the powder that you have to mix into a shake and so on, like you see in the photograph. So here, what we look out for is what it really says. Protein drinks 32, protein supplement shakes is class 5. Now, the next is again for you, the poll. So, as said, the question is the term in class 5, food for babies, infants, and children. Is this then now sufficiently clear? Yes or no? The poll started, so please say what comes to your mind. I think no, I think everybody replied now. No, I see 33 of 33. So most of you have said, so 61 of you have said no, not clear. 39 yes. Okay, so then I will share with you the reply. It is actually not clear and precise. And the reason is that, so most of you had it correct, so well done. The reason is that food for babies and food for infants may be clear. However, food for children is not okay, because the word children does not specify what enough the age range of the children. Right? So it may sound like um, a simple and well, the word joke childish thing, but the ones of you who still have parents, you are still a child, right? So this is why it is considered not to be specific enough. However, if they say food for children for medical purposes, this is then all right in class 5. Yeah. So well done, everybody. I will take a little bit of water. The next one is again for you, the interacts. This lady you see in the photograph, uh, she offers a service in class 37, which is called installation and repair services. Again, the question, is this sufficiently clear and is this the correct class? Yes or no? So I think we can share the results. Or we're not sharing the results. Very good. While you were replying, actually, I saw it was quite interesting because it first went from no to yes and then from yes to no. Now I see that most of you had said, no, this is not clear. And 38% of you have said yes. Very good. And I will then share immediately with your reply. And indeed, the correct reply was no, this is not clear enough. Because installation and repair services, it only says that these are installation and repair services. It doesn't really say what is installed or repaired. Now, then it means that it can be many different goods, right? And all those goods can have different characteristics. And then depending on what it is a different service provider who offers the service. They can be a plumber, can be an electrician, or it can also be a software installer or a hardware installer, right? So all these service providers have different levels of technical capabilities, know-how, and they also belong to different market sectors. This is why when we have installation and repair services, it needs to be specified more. What is it that they are installing? What is it that they are repairing? I have not have this. I do not have this in the slide, but the same goes for things like maintenance. No, maintenance is the same. We need to have more specific uh, what is maintained. So well done, all of you. Now this ends the part of the classification. I will now take you through the absolute grounds examination. This photo that you see are actually real colleagues of us. Um, they are in a room, and what they do is they perform an interactive, collaborative examination of absolute grounds. This is called abbreviation ICE. I know that unfortunately nowadays in the United States, ICE is something else, but we like to refer to it as interactive collaborative examination. So what it is, this is a limited group of experts, and they look at, I will tell you how much, 60 applications, so 60.
Mhm.
I have somebody in between.
I'm not sure about that, but we're going price.
I think Ms. Roberts, yes, very well, thank you very much. Um, so they are in a room every day. They perform this. Um, each person is examining 60 trademarks, 60. Now, a lot of them are senior experts, very experienced people, so they can decide by themselves. However, if they have doubts, they can consult a colleague, and they can also consult the so-called coordinator. Now, we do all this, of course, to make sure that we, as an office, as an EIPO, we examine consistently. So it's a pre-screening because you can imagine that if everybody has to do 60 applications, they will not have time to examine thoroughly. So it's a sort of quick pre-check, which is again the reason why we have their expert examiners in the room. every day. Every morning, actually, they do it in half a day. So every morning they do this. So here again is a process. So if we start at number 1, this is the so-called the quick check. As I said before, this goes in parallel to the classification and the formalities. After that, the decision is taken to object or to not object. Then it goes to a second examiner. This second examiner sends then the objection letter. I actually went from 2 to 4. So 2 is the group. When they say it's all okay, it will go to 3 and it goes to publication. And when they say no, it's not okay, we go to 4. This is not a specific examiner. This is a so-called pool of cases to be objected to. And the second examiner, they are able to pull cases according to their language profile. As you can imagine, we have here examiners from all EU member states. And of course, if we have a trademark application in German, it makes sense if we have a German examiner doing it. If this examiner is not sure, they can also go back to the first examiner to say, I think I'm not comfortable with writing this objection. For certain trademarks, for geographical indications you see here below, and for collective and certification mark, this is a very specific type of trademark. For these, we have so-called expert groups. Because they are so specific, we don't get a lot of them. So we have a certain group who mainly deals with those. Number 6 is the one that I said the objection will be drafted. And then after that, depending on whether or not the applicant has submitted a reply, the decision will be drafted. This can be the same person. The same one who sends the objection sends the refusal decision, but it can also be a different person, right? Because as said before, as an office, we are supposed to follow the same practice. Now, to have a little bit of, you see now an empty slide, I will click one time. To know more or less the roles of the people in this office, the roles of the people involved in absolute ground examination is again the pre-screening, ICE. Then we have the examiners, and then for the frequent grounds. And we have again the expert groups, as I said before. And then we have the groups for the collective and certification marks. And then we have the so-called quality checks, which are also done by colleagues. Obviously, a different colleague checks the quality of, you don't check your own quality. And then we also have a so-called reference persons, which are senior and experienced examiners who help out others. We have so-called knowledge circles, which is 4B. Knowledge circles, we have in the EIPO also a separate legal department who do not examine themselves, but they are expert lawyers. So, and also we have colleagues from our business support department. Together, they are joined in a so-called knowledge circle. In that circle, they exchange ideas and thoughts, and then, if necessary, they change practice. And then we also have a role which is called QPro, Absolute Grounds. QPro stands for Quality Performance and Reporting Officer. These are the support colleagues who monitor our stock, and who monitor if we go according to our timeliness standards. A short word about this. The EIPO has certain timeliness standards that we want to comply with. that we reply to applications in a certain time limit. These are the time limit standards, and the quality officers, they make sure that we comply with those quality standards. Okay. Then we go to the examination itself. So they look, what is the nature of the mark? Do we see any visible elements? We don't see any visible elements. So what is it that we are looking at? Or is it the sound that we have to listening to? Is there a figurative element? And is this sign figurative enough? We also look in our own database if we accepted something similar or if we have objected to a similar application. This is also quite automated. We have a support tool for this. And we use these databases, the one that is called eSearch Plus, that we search for previous trademarks. We search in our tool for the case law, which is eSearch Case Law, and we use TMView. And of course, we consult the guidelines and office practice. In this presentation, I'm not showing you a lot of examples because I know that my colleague, Mrs. Tarazona, showed you many examples, so I don't want to repeat then what she has done. That is, and I assume that many of you have also participated in the previous session. Huh? Also, what we examine is there a relationship between the goods and services and the sign that is applied for? If there is, then to what degree is there a relationship? So you can guess this is what we call the descriptiveness. Is the sign descriptive? To do this, we simply go on the internet. We also look at dictionary meanings. And we look at the meaning of the word itself, but also if there are more than one, is there more than one meaning? We look at specialized databases, abbreviations, and we also look if it's distinctive, so descriptive or customary, misleading or deceiving. The deceiving part, I will show you an example later on. If the sign that is applied for is a shape, does the shape result from the nature of the goods? I don't know, to give you an example, what's called a funnel, then of course this has one shape, right? Certain products have a certain shape, right? So like a plate you have to eat from is round. So if the trademark is round, of course, this is the shape. The shape that we see, is it necessary for the technical results? And we also look if the sign that is applied for gives us value to the goods, right? So what I wanted to do here in this presentation is I will go through one term that is this article, which is 7.1f. So basically, this is the ground that we look at to examine if the mark that we see is offensive, right? So it's just the word offensive. Here, what is important is to know, and of course, what language is it? For this, we also have help tools. We have a so-called language check, which is performed by native speakers of each language. They tell us, and they write in a certain tool what the meaning is in their language. And based on that, the examiner decides it is offensive or not. We have a tool which is called TM Meaning, and also we consulted native speaking colleagues. The next one is again for you to participate. So let's all go on. The mark is this. It's called Magic Pussy, a word mark. So the question for you is this offensive, yes or no? In between, I will tell you then what I see. So far, most of you have said yes. To help you with your assessment, I will show you also what the goods are, these. So class 9, virtual coffee, cocoa, and chocolate. And class 30, coffee, tea, cocoa, chocolates. I don't know if you can, if based on knowing this, you would actually change your reply. I see that 34 of 64 of you replied. Well, then we'll give time for a bit more reply. I see the movement, so, but I think now it's clear. I don't think this changed. We can stop here. We will share the results. You see it now? Yeah. No. Most of you have said yes. In fact, 71% of you have said yes, this is offensive, and 29% of you have said no. This is actually an interesting outcome because eventually we have decided that it's actually okay. And I showed you the classes of the goods, which are virtual coffee, cocoa, and chocolate, and class 30 to help you out a little bit. Right. So the story behind this is this. And to tell you, I will actually show the next slide. The first examiner initially objected. He immediately objected a total objection to all the goods. Like you, it's man. He thought, no, this is not possible. We cannot accept magic pussy, even if it's for coffee or tea. What happened here is that they appealed the applicants. Most of you will know that this appeal goes to an independent organ in our office, the Board of Appeal. So they are not influenced by us. They will take their own decision. And they, in the end, decided that this was actually okay. You see on the right, you see if you're interested in reading the full decision, you see on the right here, the appeal, which is R1009/2024-5. If you go into our e-search case or database, you'll be able to look it up and then see it. What I show you here is a part of the decision. Basically, they were saying that values and standards change over time. So they think, okay, we are now, this was 2024. So we are now in 2024. So maybe in 2024, people would not be offended or not. And the level of offensiveness, it has to be determined according to the social consensus at the time of assessment. And then, of course, if it's in 1950, things which are offensive in 1950 are maybe not anymore offensive now, as the word fuck, for example. Many people say that nowadays, but maybe 30 years ago, if you say this, you would be looked bad upon. They also decided that it is not sufficient that the sign is to be regarded bad taste or distasteful. You could argue that one, but bad taste is not a reason to refuse a trademark. There has to be a clear violation of the accepted principles of morality, and there has to be a serious abuse to a certain group, which is likely to cause deep offense. You see here at below another case, a case which they based up their decision of Maricon Perdido. This is what they based their decision on. right? So you also see here the number, in case you're interested. In this case, are 2307. If you paste that in our e-search case law, you can have a look into this, what it is. Of course, the level of offensiveness also is different in different parts of the country. We have also within Europe different levels of offensiveness. This is why we tend to ask colleagues as well. English people by nature are a little bit more, let's say, yeah, traditional. And I can tell you, I know who this examiner was. The examiner is from Lithuania, and maybe he was a little bit offended. And then I'm from the Netherlands. I can tell you already from experience that Dutch people are not likely offended, right? So these are all the factors that we have to take into account. But this one was then registered as it was. The next one, so be ready. It's also again for you. I will tell you when you have to reply. It is this one. I will don't reply just yet. I will give you time to look at these images. Yeah, I will not speak, so I will give you time to look at these images. It's, of course, as you can see, a candy shop. This is how it was submitted. You see that candy, you see furniture, you see door. Yeah, I think I'm showing it to you big because otherwise next to you do not really see what it is. So I think you've seen now what it is about. Memorized as well. But now I've made it smaller. The question here is, question one, is all these images together, can there be a trademark? So this means that this is Article 71A. Can it actually be a trademark? And the second question is it distinctive enough? You see a lot of distinctive elements, but if a consumer enters the store, will a consumer be able to memorize the shop? No, are there too many things in there? So the poll is here again. You can start the poll. Can this one be registered? Yes or no? I think that this is, so 54% of you replied. So either the other 46% is gone or sleeping. No, I'm only joking. Let's share the results. So most of you have said, no, we cannot register all these images together as a trademark. Very interesting results, because I will then show you what it is. In actual fact, it was decided that all these images together, they can be a trademark. This was you saw in the previous slide that I spoke about a legal department. This was actually consulted with the legal department to come to a decision. So they actually concluded that we don't apply Article 71A and we don't apply Article 71B. Because 71A means then, can what we see be trademark, yes or no? And they considered that a 3D mark can actually perfectly be a trademark. The layout of a store can be a trademark. We all know, of course, the Apple stores. We have that registered. An Apple store always has a certain layout. If you go into one, you immediately know I'm in an Apple store, right? So this is then the reason why we don't apply Article 71A. So then it was considered, no, a shop can be a trademark, because why not? And the second point that the legal department has given is that even though it is quite complex, what we see, now we see a lot of things, this is not sufficient reason to to support the statement that we cannot have this as a trademark. We cannot just simply say, oh, it is complex, so you cannot have a trademark. You never know. A consumer entering the shop might be very clever, or you don't know what they will recognize from it. I will share you some parts that they said. For example, the floor itself, you have this pattern on the floor, the black and white pattern. They said, okay, this is something that people would be able to recognize. And there is also, I have another slide that you see another part of it. There's also this counter. You see that above the counter, you see the website, www.sweetfactorystore.pl. PL is for Poland. You see that it's called Sweet Factory Store. You see all those smiley faces that are on the counter. So even though there are a lot of elements, visual elements, still it is not by definition then that people will not immediately see. We cannot say for certain that people will not combine what they see, right? I don't know if you agree or not, but this was the decision taken, right? So a lot of visual elements is not by definition that people will not remember. Yeah. So then we go to a next slide, and then after that we will conclude the part of the absolute grounds. This slide you see, of course, that is the same as the first one. This is to show you that we have several quality checks in place to ensure that we, of course, deliver a good examination. If there's a decision, that we send out a good decision. There is a quality check in place, several quality checks in place at the level of proceedings, which is the first one here. We have quality check in the classification. This is done so-called ex ante. So this is done sometimes before we send the trademark to publication. So before anybody sees anything. This is also done afterwards. So the so-called ex post quality. So it's before and after that we have the quality check for the classification and for the formalities. The same is for the absolute grounds. You already saw, you probably would not remember in the previous slides where all the quality checks are. Here we have the same. If we have somebody who is not sure about the decision to take, he or she can always consult a colleague, which this is a so-called peer review. Imagine that you we all work in English, but imagine that we all will speak English here, but imagine that you are from a country and your level of English is not sufficient, or you believe it is not sufficient, then you can consult an English-speaking colleagues. We also have a sample that goes into the quality check before we publish, and at the same time, we have also a quality check afterwards. The check afterwards is performed every quarter. So every quarter we have a round of quality checks of all our processes to see if we've done well or not. The results of these, by the way, are published on our website. So if you look for it, you will see the results. We'll see how we believe we are doing. There are also quality checks at the end. Oh, this I've said already. And at the end, we also have a special type of quality check, which is this one, the Stakeholder Quality Assurance Panel. So what these are is that we invite external users. So we invite representatives of user associations to come to the office, and then they are given a certain sample of decisions of all types of proceedings. And then they sit together, and we give them also the quality criteria that we handle, and then we let them decide if the quality of the decision is good or not. And this, of course, is a very independent quality check, because the previous quality checks are done by colleagues. So you may think that, okay, you're doing your own quality check, so of course you will say that quality is good. This is why we also have this in parallel, the quality assurance from outside. Very interesting then for us to see what comes out of there, because even though they apply the same criteria, even then we are sometimes pleasantly surprised at what comes out of there. It's very good feedback that we get from there. Here I am at the end of the route to registration. I will quickly now go to a next chapter. And here, what I would like to do is we have several tools available to users, to applicants. We call them users, maybe not the word you use normally, but we call them users. These are tools that we create for applicants to make their life easier. One of the tools that we recently went live with is this one, the EUTM screening. And what it does, this is a pre-assessment tool for absolute grounds. It's quite straightforward. What it does is that it helps people to make a sort of pre-assessment because it's quite a lot of money that they spend, and if we refuse, the money's lost. So this is not nice, of course. So to do this, we have this tool, the early TM screening. And for this, we have a nice video on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Our technician will now play the video. It's a short video. Oh yeah, I have to start sharing again. Hold on. Okay, you see it went quite quick, of course. I realized that. For those of you who are not aware, the ERPO has a YouTube channel where we post a lot of interesting videos like these to promote our tools and to promote our services. And also not only to promote, but to help applicants file their trademark applications and also, of course, design applications. It went quite quick, so I will show you a few things. One of the things so this is a standalone tool, right? So if you go on our website and you log in, you have access to this tool in case you want to play around with this tool to see what it does. You have access to this, and you can play with it. We have all these things, an explanation how to do it, what you can get in the tool. There we have a step-by-step guide how to use the tool. Also here, if you go further down in the tool, it's we've shown in the video. The tool will tell you if there are potential conflicts with earlier rights, and also the tool will tell you what the statistics are. And also the number 3 is that the tool will tell you if your trademark could be refused. This is very interesting for applicants to know. So again, as I said, this is available to users before they even start filing a trademark application. So as a courtesy to our applicants, that they can have an idea more or less whether their trademark application is successful. And then if you go on that, what was it again? The grounds, you click on there, see more, and what you get is this. All right. As it says there, this is a short, here they find an explanation of the reasons why masks can be refused. I will not show you more screenshots because it's quite a lot of information. So as said, feel free to go on our website and play with the tool. So they will know how a tool can be refused on non-distinctiveness or descriptiveness. They will see if what the geographical indications are based on which the mark could be refused. They will see, for example, if you go further down where it says traditional terms for wine, they will see if the mark is in conflict with any of those. This tool is made for applicants, but also made for law firms, because I can imagine that not all law firms are specialized in, for example, wine terms or geographical indications of plant varieties. So this is meant for applicants and also for the law firms. This all sounds very well, but to avoid that we are doing the wrong thing, at the end of the whole tool, there is this disclaimer to say that if people use this tool, it does not mean an examination. No, so they cannot say, I've used your tool, and according to your tool, there is not a conflict with anything. According to your tool, I can register my trademark. So the disclaimer is this, that any information that is there is only there for information purposes. So it's for the applicants to have a general idea if the trademark application is successful. Right? And as the role of the EIPO is only to register, so our role is not to give professional or legal advice. This is what it actually specifically says there. We provide information and we keep our balance that we only provide information, and then applicants have to make their own decision. And at the end of the disclaimer, it says this, what I said before, we are not bound by anything that is in this tool. May sound childish, but this is to make sure that we all know what the role is of the office. Actually, this is the end of my presentation. I know we are not doing any questions now, so I think, Alberto, we can give the floor to the next speaker now.
Thank you very much, David, for this extremely interesting and interactive presentation. Yes, indeed, we've come to the second part of our program. As mentioned earlier, today we will also offer you a brief presentation of practical cases from the region, which will be delivered to you by Mrs. Teresita Quishan, Registry Officer and Trademark Examiner in the Madrid unit, with over 20 years experience at the Belize Intellectual Property Office. She will be assisted by Mrs. Kalim Francisco, Trademark Examiner in the Madrid unit as well. Mrs. Quishan, Mrs. Francisco, the floor is yours.
Hey, good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Belize Intellectual Property Office, it is my pleasure to welcome to you this session entitled Trademark Examination, Common Examination Errors, Best Practice, and procedural guidelines for error correction from the Beliable perspective. My name is Teresita Kishtan again, and I will be assisted by Ms. Kaylin Francisco. The objectives of this presentation is to share our experience with examination of trademark application, with a particular focus on identifying common pitfalls, reinforcing best practices, and sharing our procedure for addressing and correcting examination errors. This session is intended to be practical, informative, drawing on real examination issues, and establish principles to support discussion, making decision consistency across examination. We also hope it will encourage discussion and reflection on how we can continue to improve examination and efficiency. We will now look at some statistic. One moment, please. Let me get the sheet. We will be now looking at some statistic.
Can you put it in presentation mode? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. For this content, we can share some statistic on some of the trademark application through the national filing and through the Madrid system over the past 5 years. Belize acceded to the Madrid, Portugal in 2022, and the system came in force 2023, which is clearly reflected in the data. From 2020 to 2022, all applications were in national filing, with 729 in 2020, 747 in 2021, and a peak of 784 in 2022. During this period, Belize had not yet implemented the Madrid, Portugal, so there were 0 international filing records. Now in 2023, when the Madrid system came into force, we received a total of 443 Madrid application and 667 national filing. This marked a structural shift in filing behavior, as applicants were now able to designate Belize through the Madrid International Registration System, reducing the need for some direct national filing. The trend continued in 2024 and 2025, where international filings surpassed national filing. And in 2024, there were 747 international filing compared to 616 national filing. And in 2025, 687 international filing versus 609 national filing. So we are basically receiving an average of 1,200 trademark applications annually. At present, there are only two assigned to national filing and two examiner assigned to the national filing and two examiner assigned to the international Madrid filing. So based on the statistic I've provided earlier, with only two national examiner responsible for formality examination, substantive examination, office action corresponding relating procedural step, the workload per examiner is a bit higher. The same obtained for the Madrid unit. Nonetheless, our process time is estimated 6 months, where there are no irregularities, and take into account the publication period of 3 months. Now, in terms of the examination process, when it comes to the national filing, we first conduct a formality check, which focuses strictly on procedural compliance rather than the substantive merits of the mark. At this stage, the examiner verified that the application has been properly filed in accordance with the Trademark Act and regulation and all mandatory forms, document, and fees that have been submitted. An application cannot proceed to substantive examination unless these formal requirements are fully satisfied. Specifically, the examiner checks for present and correctness of an application for the registration of the mark, which must be clearly identified by the applicant. The goods and services claim it must also be include a declaration for use or intention to be used. The application must be accompanied by full representation of the mark, where the applicant is represented by an agent. An application for an address for service and form of authorization must also be filed. In addition to the priority claim, the examiner confirms that the priority has been submitted within the prescribed time. Finally, the examiner, one moment. The examiner verifies the filing, sorry, the examiner will verify the prescribed, the fee is also paid in full. And identify the formalities such as missing documents, incorrect form, or non-payment are communicated to the applicant or agent, and the applicant is placed on hold until the irregularities are remedied. Only once the application is formally in order, then it will move on to the substantive examination stage. Once the application has successfully passed the formality stage, it proceeds to substantive examination. This step involves a detailed assessment to determine whether the trademark meets the substantive requirement of the Trademark Act and is eligible for registration. At this stage, the examiner assesses whether any absolute or relative grounds or refusal apply. Absolute ground indicate such issue, such as lack of a distinctiveness, descriptive, or the mark has contrary to the public or morality. Relative ground involve conflict with either earlier trademark, where there is a likelihood of confusion, or similar to a mark or goods or service. The examiner must satisfy that none of these grounds are present before the application can move forward. The examiner also ensures that the mark does not consist or contain any protected emblems such as a national flag, coat of arms, official sign, or protected symbol, unless proper authorization has been provided. In addition, the similarity search is conducted to identify potential conflict which mark exists. This internal check using IPAS and external searches through the database of WIPO, the global brand, the TM, and the USPTO. Now we look at continue on to the examination process. During the substantive examination, the examiner must also carefully review the classification of goods and services. We use the TM class database, including Caribbean version, which is based on the needs classification and which we have find it very easy to work with. Under current practice, each application is limited to a maximum of 5 class for national filing. An examiner must therefore ensure that the applicant has not proceeded this limit and that all goods and services clearly fall within the selected class. Where goods or services are correctly classified or too broadly or vaguely described, the examiner would require an amendment. Next one. When it comes to the TM class search tool, we rely heavily on the classification feature to verify the list of terms. In addition to utilizing the search term function, our process involved copying and pasting the entire class and the entire class into the classification tool for review. This approach is, we can see it right here. This is right here. This is an illustration of what we would do with the class. Yes. This is just an illustration to show that we would copy the goods and put it into the TM class for verification. The class indicate whether a term is acceptable by displaying OK. It is a term only partially found, and we can determine whether to accept or refuse the term. At this time, that's just a part of the examination how the process on our examination. I can now pass it on to my colleague here, Miss Kaylin Francisco, to proceed. One moment.
Good morning, everyone. I will continue the presentation now. Once. Okay, so now I would just like to continue. TM class would indicate whether a term is acceptable by displaying OK in green, as you guys noticed before here in this display, right? Once it's in green, it is OK. If a term is only partially found, it is flagged with a warning symbol, as you can see, or we can call it a caution sign as well, right? Based on this information, we then determine whether to accept or to refuse the term. In this example, we found the identification to be acceptable. For example, matches in class 34, that is acceptable. Cigarettes and cigars, that's partially acceptable. Right. So now I will move on to the common examination errors that we come across while examining. Okay. So not identifying goods and services as they appear on TM class. Failure to identify goods and services as listed in TM class. Applicants sometimes do not use the exact wording or classification of goods and services as provided in the TM class system. Not only that, but the incorrect use of commas and instead of semicolons. So sometimes we tend to find them just having the commas once they are trying to separate a goods and service. However, that is not the appropriate way to go about doing it. So we would then replace it with the semicolons. Failure to include disclaimers or translation is something that we also come across. Where necessary, sometimes disclaimers are not provided for obvious descriptive or non-descriptive terms. Also, translation would not be provided for the foreign words. Something that we also come across would be lack of consistency across examiners. No two examiner examines the same, but we try our best to create an acceptable standard to remain consistent. So these are some of the common errors that we come across: not identifying goods and services as they appear on TM class. We would bold and underline them. The imprecise identification of goods and services, and advise the applicant to use TM class to identify goods and services. As seen in this example here, we have class 7, triangular rubber belt for fans, not including fan belts for land vehicles, and so on. This is underlined and bold because it's not exactly how TM class has it. So that's just an example here. Correct punctuation. In this example here, you notice that the semicolons are highlighted, right? The reason for that is because we're focusing on class 35, which have here retail store services featuring jewelry, namely rings, toe rings, earrings, etc. If you notice in the beginning of the example, they are separated by commas. However, as we move on, you notice that it's separated by semicolon, which is a no-no, right? Once listing, we know that we're supposed to use commas. So this is just an example here of the punctuation issue that we face. So now we move on to disclaimer. In this example, we requested a disclaimer for the word beauty in the mark because we found it to be descriptive of some of the goods in class 3. For example, beauty masks, makeup, perfumes, facial cleanser, and so forth. When we're going over the goods and services, just by listening and the name of the mark, we can notice, hey, there's a correlation and so on. So that is what we did here. Well, of course, in this example, the words in the mark are non-English words. Sorry. So in this mark here, we have the translation. Seeing here, it's Senor Muerto. Just by the name, we know it's not an English mark, right? So therefore, we would ask the applicant or the law firm to include the translation in the mark. For example, the word Senor Muerto in the mark is not English, so we asked for the translation. When procedural guidelines. When we find irregularities, we would issue objection or refusal letters. The letter would clearly outline the nature of the issues, referencing the specific errors and the applicable legal or procedural requirements. Applicants have 60 days from the date of objection or refusal letter to respond and make the necessary amendment. For international applicants, they are allowed 3 months to submit corrections or clarifications. During this process, applicants may amend the application to correct errors, provide disclaimers, adjust classifications, or submit translations as needed. Once the applicant submits the corrections, the application undergoes re-examination. The examiner reviews the amendments to ensure they adequately address the issues raised in the objection letter. If the corrections are satisfactory, the application may proceed towards acceptance and publication. If deficiencies remain, further objections may be issued or the application may ultimately be refused. Best practices. We want to share some of our best practices. We would consult with other examiners for opinions on applications. It's always beneficial to get another person's view. We try to draft clear and reasoned refusal letters. Our letters explicitly reference the legal or procedural grounds for refusal. explains the issues in understandable terms, and guide the applicant on how to correct irregularities. We also try to search other databases specifically to see if the applicant is the same and to assist with identifying well-known marks. Although no two examiner examines the same exact way, we try to maintain a consistent standard in our examinations. We would assign all files from a single agent to the same examiner, and we would compare new applications from a proprietor with their previous filings to see if they are similar or identical, so that when we send objections letters, we maintain consistency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kishan and Mrs. Francisco, for this interesting overview of common examination errors and for offering us a few concrete examples. This is now the very end of this online meeting. On behalf of the whole CarIPI team, I would like to thank everyone very much for your participation. We hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon at our next training. I wish everyone a next day. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ms. Kishan,
Thank you all.
Ms. Francisco. Thank you for being here with us.
Bye.